know the videos that get the most views and hits on this channel are the ones that really document black violence, black on white crime, black on young, black on old, black on gay, black on straight, black on kitties, puppies, turtles, and goldfish, and how that's wildly out of proportion and how so many people are in denial, deceit, and delusion about it. I know that's our thing here. But every once in a while, we have to take a half a step back to say, hey, it's not just about the violence, it's about those crazy people who are normalizing this violence, normalizing this insanity, normalizing this insane view of the world that black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything. And I just saw this crazy article in a website magazine called Diverse Education. Why don't we just run through a few paragraphs of it just to see how the insane is now the normal. So there's a meeting out there, and there's a meeting of something about graduate students. So the meeting headline is Sobering Report on Black Student Access. Institutional racism, white supremacy, and anti-black attitudes fuel underrepresentation of black students on college and university campuses across the United States. With access a battle constantly being waged in legal courts and the court of public opinion, according to this guy named Dr. Walter Allen. Blah, 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 but there is hope, blah, 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 blah. There's hope we can have lots more affirmative action in the future. But just listen to the world this guy is trying to convince us he lives in. He's he is not just a professor, not just the Alan Murray Carter Professor of Higher Education. He's also the Distinguished Professor of Education, Sociology, and African American Studies at the University of California, Los Angeles. Here's what he says. Quote, anti-black sentiments are major drivers in inequality, enrollment, and degree completion in higher education. This is what he told to a gathering of 700 people from 13 countries at a big conference in Washington, D.C. They have a wide range of speakers. Anyway, this just ended a few days ago. Allen's prepared remarks centered on black student degree enrollment and completion from 1976 to 2015. It reflected his research background. He used data to reinforce his point that despite much diversity talk and some strong effort, key numbers remain dismal for black students and overall progress is elusive. Anti-affirmative action efforts are a factor in severe underrepresentation of black undergraduate and graduate students at many colleges, he says, particularly flagship schools, he said. The problem originates in continued segregation and subjugation of blacks and brought to society, as noted in the Kerner Commission report of 1968. And policies and practices in higher education perpetuate the problem. Wow. He's pulling out the Kerner report. 1968. Let me do some quick math here. Yeah, that's 50 years ago. So the Kerner report, for you folks weren't around when that thing came out, that's the famous report that said, well, why did we have all these riots in the ghetto in the last couple of years? What's up with that? Why are the black people so violent? Why are they rioting all over the place? Kerner report comes out and says, oh yeah, that's easy. That was all about white racism. And so this guy just goes on one after another to this vituperative, hostile analysis of what's going on with black people, how they're relentless victims of white racism. You know, it's interesting. You talk about all these programs at all these different flagship universities, and they say black people are underrepresented in some of these things. I mean, good Lord, I think everybody should be underrepresented in some of these programs. How many kids are studying anthropology right now? How many kids are studying sociology? How many kids are studying black studies? Well, they're not underrepresented there, but how many kids are studying those things? And they don't have the slightest idea what they're going to do with these degrees once they get out of college, other than drive an Uber with their brother-in-law's car. They're underrepresented because of white people holding people back. And when people like the Asian people at Harvard filing lawsuits because black people are getting ridiculous levels of favoritism over more qualified Asian students, this is somehow representative of, some kind of ridiculous level of white hostility and racism. When the people bringing the suit and to lots of other people, it's a very simple violation of the rules of fair play. Yes, I know, 4 million years of slavery. I know, I got it, thank you. While black students are 15% of the student population at private four-year schools, he noted, they are only 11% of student bodies at public four-year schools. Further, black students constitute 10% of total degree enrollment and completion at only 3 flagship schools in the nation. Blah, 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 blah. Black student underrepresentation can better be understood by considering critical race theory and legal context. Then he cited data about full-time black student enrollment and completion, where he said the numbers are stubbornly low. And this drop in black student representation is not disconnected from the struggles within the courts of public opinion and the legal courts around black access, and whether it is interpreted as unfair to whites or in other framings. I mean, just one after another. Losses follow gains, leaving black students across the educational spectrum finding a step forward, followed by a step backward, thanks to barriers to access and success, such as cost, hostile campus climates, implicit bias, and anti-blackness. Once the rumor of black inferiority is accepted, the schools up and down the ladder curtail access for black students, said Mr. Brainiac. And this article just goes on and on and on. One excuse, one fairy tale, one lie after another. All these barriers to black students succeeding in science and technology. Like it's almost like there's some kind of secret cabal of white people in white lab coats behind locked doors going, hey, I heard Jamal's doing well and up in linear algebra. Yeah, let's revoke his student loans. Listen, here's a plain fact. There's a lot of kids, a lot of black kids getting into colleges with affirmative action. Once they are there, it's hard to hide. Once you get into a college where you're guaranteed to fail, you only have 2 choices. One, go fail in math, science, and foreign languages you're not ready for because you spent the last 12 years of your life in a school where they specialize in teaching you racial resentment. Or once you get into a college, you can do what Michelle Obama did and lots of her ilk did. You study institutional racial resentment, no matter what you call it, sociology, black studies, whatever. These guys are totally flipping the script, totally ignoring what black students learn, what they experience in black schools, the anti-intellectualism, the violence, the ridiculous levels of politically correct culture that prevent them from taking responsibility for their own lives, for their own studies. Instead, it's all one blame, 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 blame. And now we have clowns running magazines called Diverse Education. These magazines, of course, are funded almost exclusively by public institutions that want to put ads in these things so they can brag about how hard they're working to recruit black students and black faculty when they really can't find anybody that could even come close to meeting their standards.
Please, sir, I want some more.
There are so many nooks and crannies of denial, deceit, and delusion. So many we never hear about, but they're out there. They're like a cancer. They're growing. This is a good example of it, not just of this big seminar where everybody sat in the audience like little bobbleheads going, oh, yeah, white people really suck. They're really constantly stopping black people from achieving everything they want to achieve in life. And then we get the people who run this crazy magazine. That's their whole reason of existence. I mean, why don't we just call it diverse education, making black kids angry since 1984?